Yes, West Meadows.
Why don't you do that? So when he goes up there, turn it on. How many people have found out about what we talk about? Like, classic example, Master, tell the people here what you heard.
I work for a council, and I was watching one of the teachings, and I heard the fellow in the background talk about, well, it's like the council workers, but they do nothing. I was cracking up.
Yeah, I said it, but everyone here agreed. Yeah, no one said no. The council workers do plenty. Right? You didn't hear that, did you?
Now we know. We won't say a word, we'll just go.
Sometimes things just come out of my mouth and I'm like, how do you really
I've got one jar of chili at home. I forgot to bring them here. Otherwise I'll grab them. There'll be enough. From all the boxes.
What's she making? A flat pack?
Yeah. Well, she like had a bed and a fridge and a TV. Who's this? My daughter, my youngest daughter. She's officially my new homeowner.
Should have sent you a
Like, what am I going to do? She's got like a bit of cement at the back and then a bit of gravel and a couple of plants along the fence line. And that's it. But
nice weather.
When you come off the highway, coming from not the airport. So if you're going to go past the one where past the house, normally you go to the ground and get that's so the one
It's on the street, so the street where the shopping centre is, that's what's stopped there.
One attraction is to find
that's one after that.
I rarely go to that one. They go to the window shopping.
Yeah, there's stuff there. It's like, she's just like, she goes through and then like,
That's where we're really on. I don't have a good
All right, we're ready.
About 200 metres in front of me, suddenly a dust cloud. A car, forward drive, lost its tyre, and plowed into the tyre was bouncing down the highway like 100 metres in front of me. Something to see every day. Like, you know, the scraping like into the luckily it got into the side. Luckily there was no cars around. Oh, what have you got, Afi? What do you want to look at?
You're up. You're up.
I'm afraid to.
You're up the hunt and the floor.
Are the Bibles?
With 100% gas thing and high duration.
What's the route where you're You're you throw or shoot, that's where you get taller from, is the wrong route though.
In the basement.
Yeah.
exactly.
You like those light bulbs, those ones where you have this thing that goes down and the thing turns on. But that breaks. So so it causes a fire, and from that explosion of when
The door of the pantry is working too. You can fix it. Yeah, right. But we're not fixing it. Hey, you can have a look at my notes. Someone talks about that, right?
Hi Sam. How are you, John?
You're not like drip, it's like a slow drip. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Cut up. That's a tub.
No, it's
Questioning the child of today's teaching.
Don't Just put a ladder on there. Just a ladder.
Put it back on.
No, we're talking about the church.
Oh, I've already got it.
Yeah, all right. What do you need? The air conditioner, I'm like, this is a bit four. I don't know what because you got up there. And it looks like it should work, but it's not.
The kids from the university and other people who want to they get signs saying, expressing the feelings and then they pass the card.
No, bricks are not falling down yet.
And then at the end, named Jude, Saint Jude, named
She spent $100 fix the toilet. It wasn't even she spent the money on this.
Is there a nice house?
it's probably
All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, pray that you bless your word today as we study it. Abba, I pray that you will bring the fruit for which you send your word to us today. In the name of Yeshua, Messiah, King, may there be nothing of me in this, and all of you in every word. In Yeshua's name, Amen. All right. Controversial title today. If you're not in Australia or in Melbourne or New Zealand, you probably don't know what this is about.
The teaching started.
Let's start by asking if everybody did the homework.
yes, we did it.
Yeah? Awesome. Homework? Homework? Oh, there's always one.
I'm joking.
Ezra 6 and Ezekiel 45. Yeah? How did you find those two? Did it add to the study?
Very interesting.
Now I understand why there's a shortage of wallpaper.
engaging.
It's one of the planks of living out in the wilderness.
It sort of expands on the teaching of Passover. There's always a lot of things to consider when coming to the Passover. Moving on from there, we're coming to Purim, the feast of casting lots. Purim. When the lot of Israel was cast. And they were delivered. Alright. So that's on Monday. We're going to get together Monday afternoon. Celebrate Purim. If you can make it, that'll be good. If you know, there's always next year.
What time are we?
Same as usual, 6:30, 7:30. We'll start probably the reading about 7:30. So it doesn't get too long. 6:30, sir?
Don't forget your noisemakers.
6:30?
Yep.
Yeah, around there?
Yep.
That's 6:30.
No.
Yeah. Kids, bring your noisemakers. I'm going to read Esther and conceal your identity so I don't know who you are. Okay. Okay. What does toilet paper have to do with the book of Esther?
Good question.
That's too deep, that's sod level.
Todd?
Yeah.
Greedy and currently worth a fortune on eBay.
Yeah. Very interesting. Interesting times that we're living in. What could toilet paper possibly have to do with the book of Esther? Absolutely nothing.
Sounded good.
Yeah, it sounds good. Just thought I'd get your
It's
attention.
current.
It's current. Current affair.
At times such as these.
For a time such as this, yes.
I'm going to put all these words here that we're looking at. What's the point of that? They are translated as here. I know that we did a study a while back, way back. I don't know if anybody is here remember that one. When we did the study just on here. No? Long time ago. There's three words that are used and translated as fear. But from the Hebrew, when we're dealing with different ones, we're dealing with different understandings of what they are. Thankfully today we got Brother Daniel. He's going to walk us through this. So I'm handing over.
Nice try.
Nice try. Can always try. So we got fear happening all over the world at the moment, pandemonium over this little tiny bug called Corona. A lot of people are going nuts. If you haven't heard the news or you haven't seen it, people are getting very, very aggressive over toilet paper. Of all things. To the point that there was a man tasered. Just not jokes.
Really? In Queensland.
In Queensland, W. And there was, I can't remember the town now, but there was 3 women who were filmed having a punch-up over a, toilet roll thing, packet. So I just think it was hilarious in a way, but really sad in another way. It all comes from this thing called fear. Right? And the enemy is a master at bringing fear. We talk about fear mongering, and many ministries are actually built on the fact that they make people afraid. You know, end time ministries, you know, prophetic, whatever, of the last days. And you get all these things like the blood moons and John Hagee coming up with that earlier on in the year, basically saying that it was the end of the world because of blood moons. And they get us to buy into this fear. Right? And at first, those of us who are sane basically just laugh at it, or look at it as hilarious. But because the masses begin to act out the fear, it begins to affect us, right? So then it becomes a real threat, in a way, right? And we are scrambling to find toilet paper because people have hoarded it and they hid it under their beds, and because the end of the world is coming, and that's what they're gonna need. They're gonna need toilet paper. So if you don't know what you're gonna need for the end of the world, toilet paper is the thing you're gonna need.
You're a termite? Great.
And then we start seeing other things happening. You know, it's not just the toilet paper now. It's flour, rice, sugar. What is it? Pasta, yes, absolutely. Hand wash, sanitizers, baby wipes, baby nappies, baby food. So there's all the stuff that's going to continue growing on as the fear increases. So what do we do with that? Because we're still in this world, and whether we like it or not, we are being affected by this stuff. How should we respond in the face of the reality of fear? Right? It's not just us; it's also the fear that the world encounters, right? And then they react to that, and then we are affected by that. That's the secondary thing. I'm not saying that we're afraid, but at the same time, it begins to affect us, and we do get nervous about what's the future holding for us, that sort of thing.
We consider the Bunnings toilet paper.
Bunnings have a toilet paper.
Yes, they do. You actually wrote about that thing.
Oh, for the public toilets.
Yeah.
Oh, office work we have the same.
Anyway,
What about dry leaf?
Get a subscription.
and fear can bring not just a threat, it can even go all the way down to bringing death. Right? So, if you incite enough fear in people, eventually they'll start killing each other over silly things, right? Like toilet paper, So, fear is a very dangerous thing. It's a strong weapon that the enemy uses against God's people and against the whole world, really. But for us, we need to be aware of these things and know how to respond. And that's why I put toilet paper there at the beginning of it. And I want to sort of study these words in the context of the book of Esther and the other scriptures that we're going to read. The first one is Job 3:25. If somebody can read it for us.
For that which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I dreaded has overtaken me.
Right, that which I greatly feared, the flood has come upon me, and that which I, the Lord, dreaded, happened to me. So there we got Job. Job was a great man but obviously he had a weakness, and this weakness brought about the thing that he feared. You know, the scripture tells us that the fear of man brings a snare, right? In Proverbs, the fear of man brings a trap, traps you. That which you fear is what you're gonna get. Right? People that are afraid of the coronavirus, guess what? You're probably gonna get it. Right? People that are afraid of cancer, you're probably gonna get it. Because you keep bringing it up in your spiritual life, and fear is like a form of faith in a negative sense. And you attract to yourself that which you are afraid of. So whatever you're fearing, that's what's going to happen to you. Does that make sense? And we see it often happening, you know. People are afraid of a sickness or whatever, and then everybody around them is fine, but they get it. You know, back in my younger days, back in South America, be quiet.
Go way back now.
Flashback.
Way back. Flashback.
I read the book of Esther.
All right. Moving on.
Adam and Eve.
Come on, you were in it.
There was this thing going on about what's the sickness that makes you yellow?
Jaundice?
Hepatitis. There's this thing going on around hepatitis, and my uncle caught it. And you know, my mom had to be the nurse, and she would go in and out, no problem. And there was one particular person who was very afraid to come near the house. I mean, they wouldn't even come near the house because they were afraid of getting the hepatitis. Right. Everybody that was surrounding my uncle never got anything. That one person that was afraid, that didn't even come to the door, they got it. You know, and I always remember that because, you know, it goes back to this. That which I feared happened. You know, the things you fear are the things you attract to yourself. By trying to avoid it so much, you actually put yourself in a place where that can get you. Anyway, we got any words that we can translate from Tafad or Yagoa? Brother?
Say again?
Can we translate any of this stuff? We got anything there?
Yeah, sure. Alright. So, Yara pops up the most in the Tanakh. It's the most used word of fear. It can mean just to fear or be afraid in general. I think one of the first instances would come from Genesis 3:10, which would probably be the fall of man. I'd say it would be when Adam feared Elohim and hid himself.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's to stand in awe of, say, Exodus 34:30, and they stood in awe of drawing nigh unto him.
Yep.
Psalm 33:8, let all the earth stand in awe of YHWH. So that's that one. It can also just be towards your parents, from what it says here.
Yeah.
Towards Moses and Joshua.
Your eye is connected to Torah as well. To the instructions.
The other one. Yeah, there's a ton of different meanings here.
Yeah.
You could do a 3-part study just on that word, I think.
Yeah.
So what other one was there? Pachad.
So your eye is connected to Torah, which means instruction. So your eye basically has a connotation or an understanding of knowing something. You have been instructed in something, you know something about that person. So it's got to do with knowledge. Because you know, you fear, or it's because you have been exposed, or you understand, you have been instructed, then you fear because you know what is capable. In that sort of sense, when we're talking about the fear of the Lord, it's got to do with knowledge of Him. It's not just fear as dread as such, but it's more about because you know who He is.
You drop the aleph and leave the hay, and it's just yarah, which is to shoot straight.
Yeah.
Where you get Torah from.
Yeah.
But all the root, the roots are there.
Yeah.
Pachad is described as dread, be in dread, or in awe. What are some examples? Whoops. What's Jesse doing? Yeah, there's just a heap of verses without any real explanations on that one. Did you have something to add on that one?
I got Pachad as deep fear.
Yeah.
Deep fear?
I think dread's a pretty good one for that.
Dread or deep fear for that one.
Yeah.
You got anything for your door? You got anything for your door?
Yeah, we'll get back to that one. Good. That's probably the least used of all of them.
Yeah.
There's very few references. It just means be afraid or fear.
Yeah.
Of diseases of Egypt.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 28:60. Be afraid of. Yeah, there's probably only about 5 Bible verses that use that one.
Yeah. I got it as
Fearing men.
This is terror. That's what I got for that one. So there's a difference between these ones and that one, even from the understanding of the root of that word. So when we're talking about fear, we're not talking about the same kind of fear. We're talking about different things within the scripture. When we're reading it, it's all translated as fear, but you gotta sift out what it's talking about. So in Job 3:25, what we read there, it's got both of them, both of these two, this one and that one. So it's not the good kind of fear or the right kind of fear. What you want to have is the right kind of fear, the top one, right? That one's a good kind of fear.
You would say not, is it a good kind of fear or a healthy fear? Like to fear God is a healthy fear, yeah?
I think it's good as well. It's healthy, it's good. To know who He is means that you have to actually get to know Him. So the enemy always tries to deal with us in fear, instill fear. What do you think that is?
Paralyzing.
Was he trying to
Yep.
take God's
Paralyzes us. Yep.
Is he trying to take God's place?
He takes God's place. Yeah, it can become an idol. Some people are so afraid that.
Well, if we're meant to fear YHWH,
Yep.
he's saying don't worry about him, but fear me instead.
It changes the focus of who you should be trusting.
That's right, it changes. The fear of YHWH is the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of knowledge. I'm gonna read something here, 1 Samuel 17. I'm gonna read verse 4 to 11. I'm gonna read verse 16. We're just gonna jump a little bit. And then we're gonna go past to 23 to 37. David. Alright.
Then a champion stepped out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath from Gath. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head and a breastplate of scale armor. The weight of the bronze breastplate was 5,000 shekels. He also had bronze shin guards on his legs and a bronze javelin slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and the head of his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron. And his shield bearer was marching ahead of him. Then he stood and shouted out to the rank of Israel, saying to them, "Why come out to line up in battle array? Am I not the Philistine, and aren't you Saul's servants? Choose for yourselves a man, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then will we become your slaves. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then will you become our slaves and serve us?" The Philistine added, "Today I defy the ranks of Israel. Give me a man so we may fight together." But when Saul and all Israel heard the words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and very terrified.
There you go, the word dismayed and very terrified. Again, this is what the enemy does. He brings out what we think it's impossible to overtake, right? Can somebody find out the height of Goliath in modern day terms?
6 cubits.
Yeah, what's that in modern day terms?
I think it was 9 feet 1 inches.
Is that 1 cubit?
Pretty sure it was 9 feet 9 inches.
9 feet, 9 inches.
I'm pretty sure.
Centimeters.
About 27 meters.
2.7 meters.
27 meters.
Scientific notation. No.
Whoa.
That'd be
That
around
was the
3.
height
Five
of
units.
the station.
The video, I was testing them.
0.4572.
Points.
One cubit
Yeah.
is 0.4572 meters.
0.45.
72 meters.
72 meters.
Isn't 6 cubits?
So 6 times 6.
2. Is it 2? It says here 2.7432 meters.
6 cubics.
Oh, I need some paper.
So,
Is that wrong?
just a quick one. How many meters
But
was
what's
it
the
for?
span as well? Because it was 6 cubics and a span.
6 cubits in a span. Come on, use your Google.
Yeah, 9.9. He's 9'9".
9 foot 9. 9.
That's what he said.
So that's
Yeah,
what?
2.7 depth.
2.74 meters.
Yeah, that's what I said.
2.74
Meters.
meters.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's
Sorry, didn't have a second. 2.74 meters.
2.74 is that?
That's only 9 foot.
Alright.
Well, how tall are you, Daniel?
6 foot 5.
And this guy's 9 foot, so it's 3 feet above you.
It's like a metre above me, basically.
Exactly.
And probably another
It's almost
200
3
kilos. He was probably a bit stocky, you know.
You think so, wouldn't you? Slightly.
Heavy bone.
Yeah, think Evan, or Evan like that, you
I
know.
think
Another,
Andre the Giant.
yeah.
He
So we're
was
talking
like
about-
20 centimetres off being 3 foot.
He would have touched the roof,
3 meters.
right? Possibly. Probably bigger than that. Anyway.
Well, this is about 2.25 meters.
Yeah.
I think he would have been over the roof.
Yeah, so it would have been
Over.
close.
Yeah.
So a little bit, he would have been hunched in here.
Yeah.
Would he have lived very long? So normally giants with their enlarged heart and everything bigger, don't they?
We'll never know,
lifespan
will we?
only about
David
35
got
We'll
to
never
it.
know.
Don't know, he got killed.
He didn't live that long.
he got killed by David.
He had 5 brothers, right?
Yep.
With him.
And he was the smallest of the lot.
The sons of Anak, he was the smallest one out of the 5 brothers. So there were 5 brothers, the sons of
They
Anak.
called him Shorty.
Shorty.
Hey, Johnny.
Anak the giant.
Yep.
And he comes and defies the armies and says, send me a man to fight with me. He wants to go up against him. He was trained from his youth to fight. Don't forget that little bit of information.
No man was fit to fight. Only a boy.
Alright, what's the next verse? 16.
You know, the tallest man that's been alive, like in recent days, was 8 foot 2.8 inches.
Yeah, this boy was big.
That's what they're telling us.
That's modern day too. That's where you would get your heart complications and things like that. I'd say being the 3rd generation for the Nephilim, they were probably pretty healthy. They had pretty good stock.
Yeah. Sons of Anak. Alright, so what's the next verse? 16.
And for 40 days the Philistines drew near, morning and evening, and took his stand.
How many days? How's that for being tortured? 40 days. You come up and do the same thing. You taunt the people. What do you think that does to the confidence of the people
What
of God?
confidence?
Shatters them.
Annihilated.
He won the battle without having to fight a soul because he just kept doing it, keep instilling the fear. Huh? Fear is more powerful than any blow you can throw. He had them 40 days. There was no reaction from them. In fact, it says that when he came near, the children of Israel would retreat and hide.
So is that
What's with the...
fear is the opposite of faith.
Yep.
So they had fear in the enemy instead of faith in God.
They had faith in the enemy.
They had faith in the fear of the enemy, which then they would not have won.
No.
So only until
So what was with David's attitude?
Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Come in the name of the YHWH of the
Yep, let's read it. 23 to 37.
And he was speaking with them and saw the champion, the Philistine of God, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistine, and he spoke according to the same word as David heard. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, ran from him and were in great fear.
Right. So they ran away from...
And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? For he has come up to reproach Israel. And it shall be that the man who smites him, the sovereign is going to enrich him with great riches, and give him his daughter, and give him his father's house, exception in Israel. And David spoke to the man who stood by him, saying, what shall be done for the man who smites this Philistine, and shall take away reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should reproach the armies of the living Elohim? And the people answered him according to his word, saying, this is what is done for the man who smites him. And Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the man, and Eliab's displeasure burnt against David. And he said, why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, now that I have done, was I not but a word? And he turned around from him toward another and said the same word, and these people answered him, a word like the first word. And then the words which David spoke were heard. They reported them to Shaul, and he sent for him. And David said to Shaul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant is going, and shall fight with the Philistine. And Shaul said to David, you are not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he a man of battle from his youth. Then David said to Shaul, your servant has been tending sheep for his father. And when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went after it and smote it, and rescued from his mouth. And when it rose up against me, I took hold of its beard and smote it and killed it. Your servant has smitten both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, seeing he has reproached the armies of the living Elohim. And David said, YHWH, who delivered me from the paw of the lion, from the paw of the bear, he delivers me from the hand of his Philistine. And Shaul said to David, go, and YHWH be with you. 37?
Good. Awesome. So, David is just asking the questions, what did this guy do? What is going to be happening to the guy that defeats this guy? Right? And you say, who's this uncircumcised guy? That he should defy the armies of the living God. There was something different about David, wasn't it? There was a different attitude. David had a different attitude. Right? His first response was not to cower in fear. Why? Because he hadn't been there for the 40 days. He had been out in the fields fighting lions and bears.
Oh man.
Right? So he was accustomed to God being in his corner. He was accustomed to God backing him up. Right? Fighting off the animals that would come and attack his flock. And he rocks up with this thing somewhere in between there, and he hasn't been broke down by the fear, right? And sometimes we have our own fears, and sometimes there's a fear of the community. The community begins to get afraid, and we all bite into it, and slowly, it's like the frog being cooked, right? From cold water into boiling water, slowly, until it's not able to get out. The same thing happens with fear. David was not in there for the 40 days. He just rocked up, saw this guy, reacted the way that any of these other guys should have reacted. But there's always one, isn't there? There's always one that even when you have the right reaction, they'll get upset. Eliab, his brother, was upset. Who are you? You're just a little kid. Go and tend your sheep. Who are you that you would go against this guy? You just came to look at real men fight, right? Because how dare you put me down? Right? Because I'm afraid of this guy, but you're not. So, well, you think you're better than me?
They wanted their fear to be contagious.
Yeah. Well, what's it called? Misery loves company. So It makes Eliab look bad when his brother's not afraid. Right? It exposes something. It exposes the weakness of the people of Israel that they were not able to just fight one guy. To the point that Saul calls David, and we know the rest of the story. He goes down to the brook and gets 5 stones, one for each of the brothers. Just make sure. So he knew he was going to kill one, but then he was ready for the other ones to come out as well. It's my boy. And we know who David became. King of Israel.
I bet you his brother didn't seem like his brother's spark when, who are you? I'm the king, the future king.
Yeah. Well, his brother sort of knew as well, because David was anointed, right? And Eliab was passed by Samuel in the anointing. And so there would have been some of that testing inside.
Isn't there some similarities between Joseph and David in that sense, that the anointing was that he prophesied and yet they didn't want to accept
Absolutely.
You know, after he killed Goliath and Saul did not give him his reward, he ran away and hid from Saul. I don't think it was because he's afraid of him.
Saul wanted to kill him because Saul realized that he was going to be the king.
the next king.
Yeah, but did he run and hide because of fear of God or fear of the king? Because he could have...
He went and hid because he was a smart man and his time hadn't been yet. He hadn't come yet, so he needed to be away.
A wise man sees evil coming and hides himself.
Yep. There is a time to hide.
Even when he had the chance to kill Saul, he didn't.
That's what I mean.
He could have killed him.
He's under the authority of the king.
He could have killed him, but he recognized the anointing of God in Saul as well.
Yeah.
So he
So
wasn't
he
going to
wanted
go against authority.
He didn't want to go against God.
No. God placed that man in authority. God will take him out. That's not my place to do it. That's basically what he was saying.
Yep.
And he was going to wait it out until God did what he had to do. 1 Samuel 15. Now we get into the book of Esther. And this is a prelude to the book of Esther. So if you know about what happens in the book of Esther, just hold off a bit and we'll get there. Let's read this story about King Saul and what he did.
And Shemuel said to Shaul, Jehovah sent me to anoint you sovereign over his people, over Israel. And now, listen to the voice of the words of Jehovah. Thus said Jehovah of hosts, I shall punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he positioned against him on the way when he came up from Mitzrayim. Now go, and you shall smite Amalek, and put under the ban all that he has, and you shall not spare them, and put to death from man to woman, from infant to nursing child, from ox to sheep, from camel to donkey. Then Shaul summoned the people and mustered to them in Telaim 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Yehuda. And Shaul came to a city of Amalek, and lay in wait in the wadi. And Shaul said to the Canaanites, Go, turn aside, come down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For you showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Mitzrayim. So the Canaanites turned aside from the midst of the Amalekites. And Shaul smote the Amalekites from Hawilah all the way to Shur, which is before Mitzrayim. And he caught Agag, sovereign of the Amalekites, alive, and put under the ban all the people with the edge of the sword. But Shaul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and the cattle, and the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not put them under the ban. But all goods despised and worthless, that they put under the ban. And the word of Jehovah came to Shemuel, saying, I am grieved that I have appointed Shaul as sovereign, for he has turned back from following me, and has not performed my words. And it displeased Shemuel, and he cried to Jehovah all night. And Shemuel rose early in the morning to meet Shaul, and it was told to Shemuel, saying, Shaul went to Carmel, and see, he put up a monument for himself, then turned and passed over and went down to Gilgal. And Shemuel came to Shaul, and Shaul said to him, Blessed are you of Yehovah, I have performed the word of Yehovah. But Shemuel said, What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the cattle which I hear? And Shaul said, They have brought them from Amalek, because the people spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to slaughter to Yehovah your Elohim, and the rest we have put under the ban. And Shemuel said to Shaul, Wait, and let me declare to you what Yehovah said to me last night. And he said to him, Speak. And Shemuel said, Though you were little in your own eyes, were you not head of the tribes of Israel? And did not Yehovah anoint you sovereign over Israel? And Yehovah sent you on the way, and said, Go, and you shall put under the ban the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. And why did you not obey the voice of Yehovah, but swooped down on the spoil, and did evil in the eyes of Yehovah? And Shaul said to Shemuel, I did obey the voice of Yehovah, and I went on the way which Yehovah sent me, and brought back Agag, sovereign of Amalek, and I put Amalek under the ban. But the people took of the spoil of the sheep and cattle, the best of that which should have been put under the ban, to slaughter to Yehovah your Elohim in Gilgal. Then Shemuel said, Does Yehovah delight in burnt offerings and slaughterings, as in obeying the voice of Yehovah? Look, to obey is better than an offering, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of the divination, and stubbornness is as wickedness and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Yehovah, he also rejects you as sovereign. And Shaul said to Shemuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the command of Yehovah and your words, because I feared the people and listened to their voice. And now, please pardon my sin and return with me, and let me bow myself to Yehovah. But Shemuel said to Shaul, I do not return with you, for you have rejected the word of Yehovah, and Yehovah rejects you from being sovereign over Israel. And as Shemuel turned around to go away, Shaul seized the edge of his robe and tore it, and it tore. And Shemuel said to him, Yehovah has torn the reign of Israel from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours better than you. Moreover, the eminence of Israel does not lie nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. Then he said, I have sinned, but esteem me now, please, before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me, and I shall bow myself to Yehovah your Elohim. And Shemuel turned back after Shaul, and Shaul bowed himself to Yehovah. And Shemuel said, Bring Agag, sovereign of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him delightedly, and Agag said, Truly the bitterness of death has turned aside. And Shemuel said, As your sword bereaved women, let your mother be bereaved among women too. Shemuel then hewed Agag to pieces before Yehovah in Gilgal. And Shemuel went to Ramah, while Shaul went up to his house at Gibeah of Shaul. And Shemuel did not see Shaul again until the day of his death. For Shemuel mourned for Shaul, and Yehovah was grieved that he had made Shaul to reign over Israel.
Amen. Wow. Few things standing out there. But the people. What was Saul's fear? What the people would think. Right? Even after he sinned, his only concern was that Samuel would honor him before the elders. Right? That he would go out with him and show him off. So as to say, well, God's still with him, kind of thing. Because I feared the people. Right, that was his downfall. Right, this is the moment where Saul falls down from his place of anointing with God. And it was all to do with the fear of man. He's afraid of the man, of the people. Does he recognize his sin?
No.
Says, I have sinned. I have indeed transgressed the commandment of
That's
Jehovah
only after he's confronted.
and your
though.
words. Yep.
Before that he
He
didn't
does
do it.
acknowledge it, but it's of no use at this point. Because God had commanded the king of Israel to do something and he didn't do it. Or he did what he thought was pleasing to the people. He forgot that he had to do what was pleasing to God. He lost the kingship of Israel in his life. The rebellion is as the sin of divination, and stubbornness as the iniquity of idolatry. We always quote that, but this is the context of what he's talking about. So we see these guys, the Amalekites, and the king of the Amalekites, which is, what was his name? What was his name? Agag. Keep an eye on that name. It's very important when we come to the book of Esther. Agag was the king of the Amalekites. Now remember, God had commanded that all the Amalekites were killed. Men, women, children, even those, the babies. The animals themselves were killed. Right? And he's saying that the people wanted to offer sacrifices to God. Right? And this is where the phrase comes, obedience is better than sacrifice. To obey is better than the sacrifices. So the people thought they were doing a good thing. A lot of the times we have good intentions. Right? Oh, but, and we put whatever else at the bottom of that. We've got good intentions. But what does that got to do with obedience? Is our good intentions lining up to the obedience side of it? Or, or we're going by our good intentions more than the obedience? I mean, how does it relate?
There's a fine line between having mercy and that.
Yep. So God's commandment was to kill all the Amalekites. There's this guy called Agag. And if you look at the end there when Samuel says, just before he kills him, he says that your mother will be childless. Just as you've made the women of Israel childless with the sword, your mother will be childless. So Agag's mother was alive. Right? It's important that you understand that there's a connection happening here, because when we get now to the book of Esther, you're going to see it. You probably miss it if you don't understand this little bit yet. Agag means I will overtop. Agag means I will overtop. Anything you can do, I can do better. I will overtop. He's the king of the Amalekites. Him and his family are spared. Samuel kills him, but his family survives. We're going to read Esther chapter 3. We're getting into the book of Esther. And I want you to find this guy's reference there. Stop when you find it. You're going to read it. It's not that long, guys. Only 15 verses.
Do you want the whole chapter read?
Chapter 3, Esther.
Yeah. After these events, Sovereign YHWH promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and exalted him and seated him higher than all the princes with him, and all the sovereign's servants who were in the sovereign's gates.
Alright, you didn't stop. Did you see it?
Verse 1.
Oh,
And it's in verse 10.
yeah, I was going to read the verse 10.
Yeah. Haman, Ahasuerus promoted, or Ahasuerus, brother Xerxes, he promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Okay, so where does Haman come from? From Amalek. Haman is an Amalekite. a descendant of King Agag. Go on. Verse 2.
And all the sovereign's servants who were in the sovereign's gate bowed and did obeisance to Haman, for so the sovereign had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or do obeisance. And the sovereign's servants who were in the sovereign's gate said to Mordecai, Why do you disobey the sovereign's command? It came to be when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman to see whether the words of Mordecai would stand, for he had told them that he was a Yehudi. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or do obeisance, Haman was filled with wrath. But it was despicable in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had informed him of the people of Mordecai. Therefore Haman sought to destroy all the Yehudim who were in throughout all the reign of YHWH, the people of Mordecai. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of sovereign YHWH, someone cast por, that is, the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month, until it fell in the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Haman then told sovereign YHWH, there is certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your reign, whose laws are different from all peoples, and they do not do the sovereign's law. Therefore it is not in the sovereign's interest to let them remain. And if it pleases the sovereign, let a decree be written to destroy them, and let me pay 10,000 kilos of silver into the hands of those who do the work to bring into the sovereign's treasuries. And the sovereign took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Yehudim.
Yep.
And the sovereign said to Haman, the silver and the people are given to you, to do with them as seems good to you. And the sovereign scribes were called on the 13th day of the first month, and a decree was written according to all that Haman commanded, to the viceroys of the sovereign, and to the governors who were over each province, and to the officials of all people, to every province according to its writing. And to every people in their language it was written in the name of sovereign YHWH, and sealed with the sovereign's signet ring. And the letters were sent by the runners into all the sovereign's provinces, to cut off, to slay, and to destroy all the Yehudim, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. A copy of the writing to be made law in every province was published for all people, to be ready for that day. The runners went out, hastened by the sovereign's command, and a decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. The sovereign and Haman that sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was in confusion.
Right. Oh, the last little bit there, the city of Shushan was in confusion. What was the whole thing now? I mean, this is descendant of Amalek, right? He is now in position of power under King Ahasuerus, or Ahasuerus, and he's got a chance to wipe out the people that killed his people. Right? This is court to settle. What would have happened if Samuel had obeyed the voice of the Lord and done what God had commanded him?
That wouldn't be happening.
They wouldn't have been in this position, right? So in a way, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because of fear. Right? Fear brings a snare. It prepares a trap for you. Well, here we see it. There was a snare prepared for the people of Israel because of what happened with 1 Samuel in 1 Samuel 15. And now the result of that fear is that we've got the whole book of Esther talking about what happened because of that fear. Because he refused to do what God told him to do. So what I want you to see is that the fear that we sometimes get put under by the enemy, if we give in to it, it becomes a trap. And that trap might not be evident right away, right? But if we continue in that fear, eventually it will catch up with us. And probably, 3 or 4 generations later, they're in this situation, right? With Haman the Agagite. So what does toilet paper have to do with the book of Esther? Nothing much, except that it's based on fear. Same thing. It's the fear of man that brings the trap. Self-fulfilling prophecies. We see a lot of that happening. Was Esther afraid? Do you remember from the story? Yeah, she was afraid.
She was brave. Isn't that like being afraid yet still going forward?
So we're going to read Esther 4, we're going to read verses 10 to 14.
Then Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him instructions for Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces fully understand that for anyone, man or woman, who approaches the king in the inner courtyard without being summoned, he has one law, that he be put to death, unless the king extends his golden scepter, permitting him to live. But I have not been summoned to come to the king for 30 days. So they conveyed Esther's words to Mordecai. Mordecai told them to reply to Esther with this answer: Do not think in your soul that you will escape in the king's household more than all the Jews. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Who knows whether you have attained royal status for such a time as this?
Right, and so we have that phrase, for such a time as this. The first instance, as all human beings presented with a death-threatened situation, is to try to avoid it, right, at all costs. That's okay, she's human, right? But in the midst of that, we have a man who is wise, who counsels her, and then we see a change, right? And we know the rest of the story, but it is important to know that she was afraid too, and with good reason too. Right? In those days, whoever approached the king and announced, or he hadn't called you, they will kill you before you came near him. Right? Unless he put out his scepter to you and then you were saved, which didn't happen too often.
No different than the Holy of Holies.
Yep, absolutely. Only the high priest could go in there. Yeah. Good connection. But she was bold, right? And she did something that is recorded forever for us to remember, and I think is worthy of us celebrating Purim because of what happened there. We're going to read it in a little bit, but with the whole situation happening, with the fear mongering, and it keeps happening. I mean, I remember back, as far as I got memory, there was always something about the end of the world this and the end of the world that. And not to say that there's not going to be a real end of the world. But we keep surviving the end of the world, Y2K and
Clock's always right twice a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone will get it right eventually.
Mayan calendar. And not to say that things didn't happen, but it wasn't the end of the world. But some people made it to be like that. Why? Because they profit from people's fear. Right? So, in a way, this whole virus thing that's going on is a prelude of things to come. Yeah? It's not the end yet. This is like Brother was talking before about the birth pains, the beginning, the beginning of the birth pains. We're not there yet, but we see signs of it happening. And if this is what happens with the little things happen, we're talking about a flu-like virus. Really, it's not that bad. I mean, people that are dying are actually got secondary things happening to them, you know, weaknesses or whatever. Most people actually survive it with no problem. So, but we see all this pandemonium happening because of it. Right? The economy is suffering. Can somebody open the door? It's locked. So imagine if this happens when something this small happens. What will happen when the real deal happens? Right? When Messiah comes, the whole earth will shake to and fro like a drunken man, he says. The walls won't stand. There will be darkness. Right? The sun and the moon will not give their light. That's a real thing happening, right? What would happen then? It says men will kill each other. Obviously, I mean, if this is what's happening now, in those days.
We can get the toilet paper now.
I don't think even toilet paper will save us then. But anyway. But if that's what's happening now, there has to be something happening also in our inside, right? In our heart. There's something that needs to be happening there. Let's see what Esther's reaction was after she got counsel. And godly counsel is very important. Chapter 4, verse 15 to 17. So 15 to 17. Somebody read it for us?
And Esther commanded to reply to Mordecai, Go gather all the Yehudim who are present in Shushan, and fast for me, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. To break out in a Michael Ben David song right now.
Yeah.
I too and my young women shall fast in the same way, and I shall go to the sovereign which is against the law. And if I shall perish, I shall perish. Mordecai then went away and did according to all that Esther commanded him.
Wow. That's a different woman to the one that was afraid. Right? She's now decided, she's set her heart to make this happen, and she's going to go and confront the king, and whatever happens, happens. Right? So she's preparing herself. She makes herself ready. She can get everybody to fast, get everybody to pray, right? Push into the heavenlies first. Make sure that everything is okay between us and him, and then we're going to go and confront this fear and see what happens. Right, so she makes herself ready. That brings me back to Revelation 19:7. We always talk about this one.
Right, preparing her garments.
19:7. We're talking with Chas today. What does it mean to be ready? To make ourselves ready. Yep. Anyone got it? You got it?
Just the one verse.
Yeah, just one bit.
Let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife prepared herself.
So the wife prepares herself, or the bride prepares herself. Alright, what does it mean to prepare yourself? We talked about this before, but...
The answer's in the next verse.
Yeah, right.
And And to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright. For the fine linen is a righteousnesses of the set apart ones.
Absolutely.
Following
Righteousness, dress yourself in righteousness. What is our righteousness? According to scripture?
Is it
The
Deuteronomy
Torah.
4?
It's in Deuteronomy.
doing what is right.
What is right to me?
What is right.
Doing Torah.
Yeah. How does the Bible define righteousness? There's one place where it defines it.
First John.
No, it's in Deuteronomy. This is our
Deuteronomy
righteousness.
6:25.
Yeah.
It will be righteousness to us if we take care to do all his commandments before YHWH our God, just as he commanded us.
This is our righteousness if we obey his commandments. Right? That's how we make ourselves ready, by obedience. Hosea 11,
Hosea.
10 to 11. Hosea. Hosea now.
Yeshua.
Who's got it?
Let them follow YHWH like a lion. He roars. When he roars, then suns shall tremble from the west. They shall tremble like a bird from Mitzrayim, and like a dove from the land of Ashur. And I shall let them dwell in their own houses, declares YHWH.
Right, they come with trembling. This is when God calls Ephraim back. In another place it talks about, I think it's Isaiah, it talks about him whistling. Isaiah 6, I think. He whistles to the nations, raise up a standard. And Ephraim returns. He says they come with trembling. Why do they come with trembling? Because they know God. They come with the fear of the Lord.
The YRA.
The YRA, the fear of the Lord. The good fear. Fear of YHWH. Proverbs 9:10. The fear of YHWH is what?
The beginning of wisdom.
Is it? Proverbs. Let's read it. Proverbs 9:10.
The reverence of YHWH is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Kadosh One is understanding.
Wisdom and understanding. So to know where to place your fear, is the first step. First step is to fear YHWH. The first step is to fear YHWH.
It can also mean beginning or first principle.
Yep.
It's like the first rule, basically.
What has happened with Ephraim in the nations is because they were taken out and they were enslaved, and then they became part of the nations. They got what is referred to as the Stockholm Syndrome. Have you heard of that one?
Yep.
Right? They became associated. They allied themselves to the enemy, to their own captors. Ephraim has become as their captors. Right? But when they know the truth, when they are awakened to the truth, awake, then they come out with fear. With the fear of YHWH. They return to God with fear. Yareh, with the knowledge of Him. To make oneself ready is to change our fear of man to courage and turn it into the fear of YHWH. Don't be afraid of what's going on. We know it needs to happen. Right? Be wise, be ready. Do the best you can to get ready, but
We just
don't be
didn't know
afraid.
it was going to begin toilet paper.
I know.
And it was the biggest shock.
Change your heart. Rend your hearts and know your garments, right? Change your heart. It's like the heroes in the movies, right? You see it on TV. Back in the 80s, it was that movie, No Retreat, No Surrender. Have you heard that one?
Yes.
Van Damme,
Yes.
That was the first
right? The Rocky Balboa ones, you know.
Oh, yes.
He's down, but he's not out, and then all of a sudden, this
40 years before my time, sorry.
then he just gets this fire in his heart. You know, poor guy, the other guy. Right? That's what needs to happen inside, a change of heart. Like Hadassah said, and if I die, I die. No fear. Revelation 14:7 says, fear YHWH and give Him glory. Give Him the glory. Not the coronavirus. Not any other mongrelling thing that is out there to make you afraid. Blood moon, swine flu, SARS, whatever. Ebola, measles, anything. You name it. Don't be afraid of that. Give God the glory. And if we die, we die. And if we live for Him. But don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Our driving instructor used to go every 5 minutes. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Chavi and I, we had the same driving instructor.
I think they were
He was
doing
annoying.
it to calm themselves.
He was annoying. He was like, don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. And then he would go, when we did something good, he goes, oh yeah, just like that, eh? Just like that, eh? How about this one? Oh, just like that. Vashti, the queen that was kicked out, she was a beautiful girl.
Hey.
But she would not obey the king. I never met her. You'll say, I never met her. Hey, I wouldn't want to meet her now anyway. She's probably cool.
Probably.
Vashti was beautiful, but she would not obey the king.
Disobedient.
She was disobedient. She was rebellious at heart. Hadassah, this is from my wife. I'm just taking her quotes. Hadassah transformed herself to be pleasing to the king. And so she won his heart by her manner and obedience to her God. Who do you want to be? Isaiah 52, and we'll finish with this one. Verse 1 to 12. We sang it before. Now we're going to read it.
No, that one.
Awake.
Isaiah. But I want you to read it with gusto, right?
Not here. Custom.
Someone with a loud voice and strength of character. Oh, that's really loud and clear.
Okay, Elijah, where are you?
Come on.
You put too much pressure on everyone.
Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion, put on your garments of splendor, O Jerusalem, the set-apart city, for no more do the uncircumcised and the unclean come into you. Shake yourself in the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose yourself from the bonds of your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For thus says YHWH, you have been sold for naught, and you are redeemed, not with silver. For thus said the Master YHWH, at first my people went down into Mitzrayim to sojourn there, and Ashur oppressed them without cause. And now, what have I here, declares YHWH, that my people are taken away for naught? Those who rule over them make them wail, declares YHWH, and my name is despised all day continually. Therefore my people shall know my name in that day, for I am the one who is speaking. See, it is I. How pleasant upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who proclaims peace, who brings good news, who proclaims deliverance, who says to Zion, your Elohim reigns. The voice of your watchmen, they shall lift up their voices. Together they shout for joy, because eye to eye they see the return of YHWH to Zion. Break forth into joy, sing together, you waste places of Jerusalem. For YHWH shall comfort his people, he shall redeem Jerusalem. YHWH shall lay bare his set-apart arm in the eyes of all nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the deliverance of our Elohim. Turn aside, come out from there. Touch not the unclean, come out of her midst. Be clean, you who bear the vessels of YHWH. For you shall not come out in haste, nor go in flight. For YHWH is going before you, and the Elohim of Israel is your rear guard.
Amen. Come out of her, my people, right? That's where the quote comes from. Comes from this one here. Come out from them, from there, touch not the unclean. It says that YHWH bears his arm to the nations. You touch my people, you're gonna get this. Right? He shows his power. It says there that you will not come out in haste.
Opposite of that.
Second Exodus, you're not coming out in haste. You're gonna walk out. Stick out your chest. Walk out. Carry your bags full of gold and silver. Right? You're gonna take it from them. Take the hammer. No, sorry.
I'll trade it for a roll of toilet paper.
I'm not like that.
A few rolls of toilet paper, we're just gonna take it. Storm their toilets. Because YHWH will go before you and he shall be your rear guard as well. So be encouraged. We've been talking before about be strong, may you be strengthened, right? When the time comes, we need to have a heart like Rockies. Don't give up. Don't get scared by these things. When you see them happening, lift up your head. Your redemption is near. Don't be afraid of what's going on. That's what the world wants. That's what the enemy wants. He wants to make you afraid. So you can end up in a trap. So he can take advantage of that and destroy you. Don't give in to the stuff that the masses are putting out there. And there's lots of different types of fear mongering, not just the virus. We see them coming more and more, and they're coming more often now. And as the time draws near to the coming of Messiah, it'll be like everyday thing, something new will come out. To try to catch you, to try to make you afraid, because that's the end game of the enemy. Just know that your God is greater, that if we die, we die. And if we live, we live. And whatever happens, whether we live or die, we are His. That's what Paul said. Didn't he? So don't be afraid. Don't let the enemy make you afraid. Fear YHWH and obey His commandments. But this is the whole duty of man. Yeah? Once all the arguments have been said, once everything else has been presented, that's our whole duty. Nothing else. Just fear YHWH and obey His commandments. Alright, we'll do that. Shabbat Shalom. And shall we pray, please, for finishing? Brother, can you lead us in prayer?
Avinu Hakinu, Father our King, Father, thank you for the teaching today and for everything you provided in our lives. Father, we pray for baby Sheila that your will can be done on the family and give us all shalom. And we look forward to your next Shabbat. In the name of YHWH, Amen.
Alright, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.